Hi guys, this is Michał from LearnUX.io. I'd like to welcome you to the Career in UX course. In this lesson, I'll try to explain to you what UX is, what it means, how you could understand it, and also why is it important that we have UX designers who work on digital products. Let's start with trying to define UX. This guy here might help. Don Norman used to be employed by Apple in the 80s. He was one of the first UX architects working there. He actually popularized the term UX design. He is the author of the book, The Design of Everyday Things, which I consider one of the top books on design that you could possibly read. Don Norman understands UX or user experience as something that encompasses all aspects of the user's interaction with the company, its services, and its products, which means that let's say you're buying a computer, you're buying a laptop like this one. So you go to the store, you have an experience in the store. You buy the computer, you take it home, you unpack it, and all of it is your user experience. Then you use it for the first time, you have the onboarding process, you use it a couple of more times, you learn how to use it better, and this all is your user experience. And there are people who design it all along the way. People who design user experiences are called user experience designers, and they typically work influenced by three forces, as I call it. One of them is the business. Every designer needs to design something that fulfills business goals that an organization has for the actual product. It could be business goals like more sales or less costs, but it could be also something less tangible like better user experience or more loyalty from their customers. Another force is the user's needs, and usually UX designers fight for more empathy towards the end users. They research their needs, their problems, and they try to make products that work best with the end audience selected as the target segment. The third force is the technology. Everything that you build, every computer program, every system, every website has some technological constraints. And this might just mean that you have certain budget or time to be used on the development process, and you need to think of how to make it all fit in the tight space. You need to communicate with the developers. So the technology is another one of your constraints. So in the middle of all these three forces, we have UX design, which is basically a bridge between different parts of the organization, different aspects of the whole digital product. So a person like you would work with different kinds of people in the organization in different departments. Let's take Airbnb for an example. Here on the homepage you have a couple of elements, some widgets, some banners, some buttons. You have the search engine where you can start typing something in and it will suggest some of the choices to you. You have the content being loaded, and all of this has been designed by UX designers or product designers. The main navigation, everything that you have basically in this product has been designed with the business goals in mind, but also designed in a way that it's simple to use, the interaction is very intuitive, and basically everybody can use an interface like this. Obviously, they needed to think about the technology as well, because all those fancy animations and transitions take a lot of time to actually develop. So the designers needed to think about, oh, can we actually do this within the deadline that we were put in? So think of this as an example of what you as a UX designer might do. As you saw in the example of Airbnb, you had some business goals. So perhaps Airbnb Plus, which is a new business line, or certain widgets, certain offers to be promoted, were business decisions, which is the first force working on the UX design. The second one, user needs, well, Airbnb does a lot of testing with their users. They observe how they use the website, they optimize so that every interaction is intuitive. And this is the second force working within UX design. The third one is technology, which I already mentioned. You have certain deadlines or budgets, you have certain skills in your development teams. So you need to think of all of this when designing digital products. You work with different people in UX design. An example of a business stakeholder might be the product owner. Certain product teams are organized in a way that the shape of the vision of the digital product is set by the product owner, somebody who oversees the whole experience, working with the designers, with the developers, and other people in the team. From the other side, you have the customers, people who would use your website, and you need to think of them as somebody who should give you feedback and should have you understand what it means to use such an interface from their perspective. On the third side, you have the developers, which you as a UX designer would be working with on a daily basis. So all of your designs would go to them, would be consulted with them, and in the end, they would be implemented by the development team. As for the evolution of UX design, in the more modern way, in a digital world, it started in the 80s and the 90s, where you had first usability specialists, and also, as I mentioned, people like Don Norman were involved as UX architects. Then slowly transitioned into UX spreading out across the digital world, and people started to actually being hired as UX designers, and companies started to see the value in it. Later on, let's say 8-10 years ago, companies started to see the value of UX design as a competitive advantage. Companies like Pinterest or Airbnb already had a lot of competition on the market, but their unique value proposition was the amazing UX that they provided to their customers. You might remember this situation in the news. On January 13th, 2018, there was an emergency alert that was pushed to all of the people in Hawaii that a ballistic missile threat is inbound to the islands. Actually, this was a fake message. It was an alert, but somebody had to use the interface that was designed like this. They had a couple of links, and it was really simple to click on the wrong link. You may have just scrolled the page long, you may have just been distracted and clicked the wrong link, so the person there wasn't the one to be blamed. One to be blamed was the person responsible for designing or implementing or even confirming an interface like this to be put live. So there should be some error messages, some confirmation screens. Are you sure you want to send the alert to all of the people in Hawaii that could possibly change their lives and put them in panic? Well, there was nothing like this. A simple click on the wrong link would mean a complete disaster. People in the world of business use apps designed like this on their daily basis. All of the functions are tangled up, there's a lot of buttons, a lot of functions everywhere. Perhaps most of the users use just a fraction of these functions, but interfaces like this are unfortunately still common in the business world. And UX designers should work on making interfaces like this be as simple as Airbnb, MailChimp, or something like Headspace if we're talking about more user-centered or individual-centered applications. So think of these examples when you would be designing something that's also used by business. Everything should be just as simple as pushing a few buttons, going through a few steps, and nothing more like this. This is why UX is important in the modern world.